Hey, I'm Ben Avery. This is Strangers and Aliens. And here on Strangers and Aliens, we talk about that kind of intersection point between spirituality and science fiction and fantasy speculative fiction. I am a science fiction writer, comic book writer, children's pastor, and a science fiction fan. And I am getting ready to take part in some of my science fiction fandom. That's what I'm sitting down here to do. I've got my lunch, my chores are done. So, well, almost done. Laundry is mostly done. I shoveled our backyard parking lot. It's a long story why we have a parking lot and not a yard, but that's what we have. Uh, and that's done enough for me to sit down for an hour to watch some Star Trek. It is Thursday morning. It's my day off at work, and it is Star Trek Day. New Star Trek Day occasionally. Thursday morning. That's when Paramount Plus releases their new Star Trek episodes. So I am sitting down to watch not one, but two episodes of Star Trek Starfleet Academy. And there's a part of me that is really, really not excited at all. There's a part of me that's kind of slightly interested. So when you're looking at the scales going back and forth and up and down, there's the really, really not excited, and then there is the um, slightly interested. So we'll see how it all goes. But anyway, so here I am recording three parts. Part one is me talking about things ahead of time. I'll be talking about the first episode after the first episode is done. I'll talk about the second episode after the second episode is done. And bottom line is, man, I don't know what to think about this. I am definitely not a huge fan of the new Star Trek. I am definitely a huge fan of old Star Trek. It used to be. I was thinking about how Thursday has become New Star Trek Day with Star Trek Lower Decks, with Strange New Worlds, with Discovery, all the Star Treks that Paramount Plus has done. At some point in time, they switched it up, and it was just happening on Thursdays when they were releasing new episodes. Yes, New Star Trek Day used to be for me. It used to be Monday through Friday, and it was an episode of the original series. And mostly, well, for obviously for a little while, it was always a new episode for me because I became a Star Trek fan in the mid '80s. It was right after Star Trek 3, right before Star Trek 4, and I think it was channel 47. It might have been channel 66. I can't remember. I need to go back and look. I may still be off on the numbers, but Mike, Dan, if you're listening, you can correct me on that. But anyway, it was Monday through Friday, and I'd watch Bullwinkle, and I would watch Star Trek, and then I would also have homework that I would have to do. And so there was still a chance that maybe one of those episodes would be a new episode, and there was always episode or two on Saturday as well that I watched downstairs on the black and white TV on Saturday. I don't remember why. Maybe just because more. I don't know. Point being, that was New Star Trek Day for me, and it was an exciting time. Even if it was an old episode that I'd seen before, it was exciting. And then there were the movies that I could watch anytime I wanted because I recorded those off TV. I had a VHS tape with Star Trek motion picture, Star Trek 2, and then my dad bought the store-bought, made for video rental, store-bought in a regular Paramount box, Star Trek 3 for $9.95, marked down from $99.95 at some video store that he got it from. And so I could watch those whenever I wanted. But as far as the episodes went, for some reason I didn't record them. And so I was just watching those, and it was great. It was an exciting time. Even more exciting was my friend Mike, who I just mentioned. One day brought a newspaper clipping to school that said that there was going to be a new Star Trek series with Star Trek Next Generation. It took place 80 years in the future of Star Trek, and that was very exciting. And we moved away, so I didn't get to watch that around Mike and Dan. I don't know if Dan was into that or not, but we moved, and so Star Trek Next Generation starts, and new Star Trek Day, I believe, was Friday night. I'm not sure. I'm trying to remember if it was Friday night or Saturday. I do remember it was the weekend because on Monday morning, my friends and I, when we would get together in high school, we would talk about the new episode of Star Trek The Next Generation. That was new Star Trek Day then. But the new stuff I just don't go back to. And Star Trek Next Generation, I've been rewatching right now, and it is so good. Every episode is a self contained thing. And it's just this kind of thing where I'm just like, I'm enjoying myself because I'm watching this short little sci-fi nugget that has, a little, maybe a little thing to say about the human condition, but it also has this cool idea and some action, and it's fun. I'm enjoying myself rewatching those episodes. I don't see myself returning at all for any reason to Discovery or Prodigy even. None of them. Strange New Worlds has come the closest to being a repeat view for me, but I just don't see myself returning to it. Picard, I'm not going back to Picard. I don't. I liked some of them enough that I didn't feel super disappointed in every episode, but there were certain episodes where I'm just like, this is just not for me. This is not for me, who's been a fan since I was a wee little lad. And so that's when I'm checking out. Like, this is definitely meant to be for a new audience, the Star Trek Academy. And so I'm really curious where this is going to go, how this is going to play out, and will it be something that I enjoy or not. I'm really curious how it's going to go, because they definitely did not make it for me. They didn't make it for the long term fan. There will be some little things here and there. I know the Doctor is a part of this, and there's going to be references to old things, but I just don't see myself um, getting pulled in. And so I'm really curious if they're going to be able to prove me wrong. That's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping they prove me wrong, and that this series actually is something I will get invested in and be curious about. My I'm getting ready to watch it. I just need to watch it right now and turn this off, and then I'll come back and we'll talk about it after the first episode, and we'll talk about it after the second episode. But there's 2 hours. I mean, basically, it's a Star Trek movie that I'm getting to watch right now. Speaking of Star Trek movies, Section 31. Good grief! Good grief! Um, they just aren't making Star Trek for me. I'm enjoying it enough that I'm sitting down and watching it, but it's not something I'm going to return to and enjoy over and over and over again, the way I do with Next Generation, with the original series, Deep Space Nine. I've gone back to Enterprise years ago, and I'm getting ready to maybe when I'm through watching Next Generation, I'm thinking that's might be where I go next. Voyager. Whenever I catch an episode on TV, it's just fun. I enjoy that, but I just don't see myself. If I was flipping channels and it was Discovery, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna jump in. I'm just not. I'm gonna keep on flipping channels. So all right. Well, let's see where we go from here. And eat some lunch and say hello to my son, who just got back from work on lunch break, and start some Star Trek. Hey, there's me again, Ben Avery, here to talk about Star Trek, Starfleet Academy. First episode after having seen it, and I liked it. So, um, yeah, this happens occasionally when I go into things with low expectations, and then the expectations are met because the expectations are low. And that's definitely what happened here. I definitely went into Starfleet Academy with low expectations, and I definitely went in saying this won't be for me. And there were scenes that were for sure not for me. There was um, two things that pulled me way out. One was the quippiness. There's just this tendency in modern screenwriting where they just are like, we have to tell a joke at every moment. Every moment has to have a punchline. It has to have. We're not going to end every scene with a period. We're not going to end every scene with an ellipses. We're going to end every scene with some sort of exclamation point. Um, and so, and it's the Joss Whedon thing. It's not even necessarily a modern thing. It goes back, it goes way back. But Joss Whedon was probably the biggest example of who I would throw out there as someone who you can't just have an emotional moment. You have to follow up on that emotional moment with some sort of tension breaker. And anyway, so there's a little bit of that going on here. There was all of the college stuff in the background where they're announcing for electives and things like that. Um, it made for what do you call it? Set dressing. It did make for set dressing. We knew where we were. We knew what we were doing, where we were. But at the same time, I mean, I just yeah, that's where definitely doesn't feel like it's made for me. I am curious. They introduced a whole bridge crew, and we go around the circle. We get all their names, and I am curious. Are we going to get the opposite of a lower decks episode, where we're going to get an upper decks episode, where we get to meet the bridge crew and who they are? Because the focus is on the people in charge of school. The focus is on Mr. Belding and Zach Morris and his friends. That's what the focus is on. The and so. Uh, yeah, they definitely, you have the school chancellor, who's the captain of the ship, and you have number one, who's a Jemadar Klingon person, which there's a problem with that, and how there's no female Jemadar, and they're, I mean, this is how many hundreds of years after all of that, but um, you know, eh, everything that people complained about, and everything that I think people were getting ready to go in and just not like, um, didn't irritate me. Put it that way. Um, I liked the episode. I as I'm sitting there watching it, I'm especially the first half of the episode. That first half of the episode, I'm sitting there thinking, this is strong. This is where they're setting up the situation that sets up our bad guy and our main character Mirror and his mom and then also the Chancellor, and it brings them all together in this one focused scene where we don't know all the exact details, but this is why bad guy doesn't like the Chancellor. This is why Mirror doesn't like the bad guy. This is why Mirror is looking for his mom. And the way it sets that all up, and there's this court scene where I'm following the rule of the law, and this is what I have to do, and so it separates a family, and it was really interesting. I found myself drawn in, and as a result, then you get the first few moments with well, there's the action scene there where the main character we're setting him up as the bad guy, or the bad boy, not bad guy, but we're setting him up as this guy who he's doing anything he can to find his mom. He's getting arrested. He's going to jail. He's serving time. He's doing this and this and this. And but now we get this kind of Star Trek, um, uh, the J.J. Abrams Star Trek setup of Captain Kirk, where it's you're let me bring you in. You do these bad things, but I can still bring you in, and you can be a maybe in Starfleet Academy, and I want you to do better, that kind of a thing. Uh, yeah, and then the whole episode introduces these characters, and it introduces what they're good at. It introduces what they're not good at, and it did so in such a way that um, when the episode is wrapping up, and you have the main problem where you have the situation with the bad guy coming into conflict with them, and they solve the problem through their strengths, and it all worked, and each character had their moment to shine. I liked what I saw, and I am curious because early reviews were reviewing the first 6 episodes and saying it's not going to be good. It's not going to be good. But for the first episode, as a pilot episode, it does its job, and I would say of all of new Star Trek, I'm trying to remember much. I can't remember much about Star Trek Picard, but of all of new Star Trek, I feel like this is probably the strongest of the pilot episodes. Although Star Trek Discovery, I did feel like had a strong pilot episode, and so um, yeah. So Star Trek Discovery for me started kind of strong, dipped, and then went back up, but never quite reached back up where it was. It's been a long time though. I might be misremembering, but anyway, this was a strong pilot episode, and I actually enjoyed myself. I enjoyed watching it. Was it enough to make me say, "Oh, I can't wait till the next episode"? Well, considering the next episode is going to be here in a minute or two, yeah. I mean, I'm ready to sit down and watch the next episode. But at the same time, um, I'm still cautiously optimistic now. Will it continue? I really don't know. I really don't know because, like I said, early reviews have said it's more of the same, more of the same. I will say this though: the title screen had the original Star Trek logo font for Star Trek, and then had the original crew and Deep Space Nine Star Trek logo font for Starfleet Academy. And that definitely said something. Like they're trying to say something here, and they are referencing those early Star Trek crew, and they are talking about how back in the day, this is this is what Starfleet Academy did, is they got people ready to be these heroes that you are familiar with. And then they have, they pan across the wall of heroes, and you see all these familiar names: Data, Kim, Kirk, uh, Pike, Spock. And Kim I throw in there because, man, they finally gave him a little bit of credit here. But the point being, they're saying, like, we're trying to say this is what we are setting up these characters to try to be. The awkward holographic character she was not annoying. I feel like they set her up well, and so she's bringing in that comic relief because of her being kind of awkward, but they set up the awkwardness well, and the doctor is used well, and one other thing that irritated me is just the unprofessionalism of the chancellor when she's sitting on the bridge and she's curled up in her chair reading a book while they're flying. And I'm just like, I mean, I get it. You want to it makes sense. You want to be able to do something while you're just flying across the galaxy, sitting in that chair. Uh, but at the same time, it just felt like, this is not Captain Picard. This is not Captain Kirk. This is not Janeway. This is something else. So, is it perfect? No. Is it great? No. Is it good? Yes. And I enjoyed it. So that is my review of episode 1. I can't remember what they titled it. Something about the kids. Maybe I'll put a title here or something. I don't know. But episode 1, I enjoyed. Star Trek Starfleet Academy, episode 1, not bad. It on the scale. I had the scales, and on one side it was, you know, not terribly excited, and on the other side it was slightly interested. It edged over into good. So there's that. I'm gonna watch episode 2. We'll see what we get, and let's hope it's more of the same. But I don't know. Reviews aren't making me very optimistic, which is a good thing. I'm going in with low expectations. All right, hello, I'm Ben Avery. This is Strangers and Aliens, and I am here to finish talking about this is the third part as I talk about Star Trek Starfleet Academy. First part was just kind of talking about what my expectations were, and my expectations were low. Second part was to talk about episode 1 and how it kind of exceeded my expectations. And then now part 3 rather, where I talk about episode 2, beta test, which was an interesting episode. And it was interesting because part of it did engage me and part of it just did not at all. And of course, probably the part that did not at all was really just the emotional through line of the romance that's going on there, where you have the new character, Caleb, who is our central character. And honestly, I believe he's a decent central character. He has a pretty good, strong driving force behind him that's going through from episode to episode in these 2 episodes that we've seen anyway. And I like him. I mean, he's your typical rebel character who, he's coming in. He's kind of that Captain Kirk, J.J. Abrams, Captain Kirk kind of a feel. But he's coming in and he's falling in love with a Betazoid who is there because they are trying to get the Betazoids back into the Federation because they've been they've cut themselves off. And the whole episode, what's nice about it, and it kind of fits into the kind of things that I like to do, is that thematically it works. You have all these relationships that are going on here. You have Caleb and the Betazoid character, and you have Federation and Betazoid. What's the planet? Betazed? Yeah, Betazed. The Federation trying to do talks with Betazed and trying to get them to come back in because they need them, but they have harmed them in the past, and the Federation was not working really well with them in the past, and so there's a bad relationship there, and then you also have Caleb and his new roommate, and the payoff to that is a little bit annoying, but it's meant to be. And so it's decent writing. Then there's just the idea of how do we come together? How do we? And in the midst of that, the Betazoid Federation conflict makes the most sense. The conflict between Caleb and I can't remember her name, the Betazoid delegation, the daughter of I can't remember her name. Anyway, they have their emotional climax and the conflict where they come together and they're like, why didn't you tell me? I didn't tell you because it felt flat. It just felt forced and contrived. It fit thematically though, and I'll give them that on there. But it just felt like, well, we have a romance, so we have to have some sort of, they meet cute and then they get in trouble together and they exchange glances and then they have an argument and then they come back together. And is it tropey? Sure, why not? But Star Trek is known for being tropey. It's just Star Trek has its own tropes, and now it's kind of pulling in these other tropes as well. And so, yeah, the first episode surprised me how much I actually liked it. This second episode did not surprise me. I still liked it. It was okay. If I'm grading on a thumbs up or thumbs down, I'm definitely giving it a thumbs up. But if I am going to say, did I like it, or did I just like it? um, and really, it would have been a teetering thumb. Like if this had been the first episode, I would have said, yeah, this is pretty much what I expected. Because that's the other problem was this episode is, it starts out and the Chancellor, she's saying, go out, explore new worlds, be bold, boldly go, and it's a bottle episode in San Francisco. They don't even leave the planet. Like it's a bottle episode, and so that's not the show that they're giving us. Is the show they want to give us. That's good, but I was hoping for, and what I want from Star Trek is to boldly go. I want to see them going. I want to see this core cast of characters that hopefully you like, and for the most part, in all the other Treks, especially those earlier Treks with Deep Space Nine, Enterprise, Voyager, Next Generation, and then of course going all the way back to the original series, you like that core cast of characters, but they are going from place to place and doing things, and in the midst of doing those things, we get maybe a life lesson. We get maybe a couple ideas where you're thinking, "Oh, that's very interesting." And honestly, that core cast of characters going from spot to spot, doing things, that kind of is what I've been doing with my Slipstream universe with from Ghosts of the Future. I'm not going to get the book out, but um, I'll get this one out. Those characters are in these books, but they're going and having just here's a core cast of characters, and they are going out and they are doing things, and this cast as you're moving from place to place with them, and they're doing that, and in this case, the first episode was them going on an adventure and they got attacked by a bad guy, and then in this one, it's them going to school and kind of maybe falling in love, maybe not. So, anyway, all that to say, Star Trek Starfleet Academy, I am favorably impressed with you. I feel like your writer's room has done a great job. And whoever, I can't remember the names, I did hear them on the radio today, actually. NPR did a review of it. And I saw it, of course, in the credits coming up, but I can't remember who it was who is leading the writer's room, but fantastic job there. I do have problems with it. I mean, there's a problem with some of the set design where it is just so bright and flashy. And I do have problems, like I said, with Chancellor being so unprofessional. I mean, in this episode, she's walking around barefoot. And yeah, the guy who's like, hey, maybe you shouldn't walk around barefoot. Yeah, you shouldn't. I That's just me though. I don't go barefoot anywhere except for home, and I don't like sandals even. I That's me. But I remember my mom making a talking to someone, and yeah, Benji wears socks to bed. Like I guess I want to cover my feet. I don't know, but anyway, just how unprofessional she is. And so, anyway, with all that said, I did like Star Trek Starfleet Academy. In fact, I would say that Strange New Worlds of the new Trek is my favorite. This would probably slip into that second spot after that. Now, that's not hard because Discovery, Picard, Lower Decks, even, they're not, for me, top tier science fiction. Um, Strange New Worlds itself, first season, yeah, it was, but then they did the musical episode and they've done some other things where I'm just, oh, come on, like it just brought it down a little bit for me. But anyway, so I probably will not be judging Starfleet Academy as top tier science fiction, but that that's not what's necessary. Was it a fun diversion for my day off from work? Yes, it was. Was it a nice diversion as I was, put the laundry in and waiting for it to get done, and then in between episodes go and switch the laundry and hang up the clothes to dry? Yes, yes, it was. And so, yes, I did enjoy it. I give it thumbs up. Both of these episodes, thumbs up. I am curious what other people are thinking. What do you think? What did you think? Because I feel like I could be accused of being a paid shill, and I want to reassure you that I'm not. Although I could use the money, but anyway, um, yeah, I'm not. I'm not being paid to say this. This is me as a fan of old school Star Trek saying, actually, I kind of liked this, and when next Thursday rolls around, I will be looking forward to it. There have been some Star Trek series that I've gone into and said, this is kind of a chore, but I'm watching it because I watch Star Trek. I'm a fan. I'm going to watch all of it. But in this case, for this series, I am ready for episode 3. I'm curious where they're going to go. I would like to see them go boldly where no one has gone before. And again, I appreciate the little nods here and there, the little references here and there, but there's also certain jokes where it's just no, you're stretching beyond the. I'm not going to get into the jokes. Some of the jokes, though, they just I'm not going to get. Anyway, I liked it, so I'm curious. Am I in the minority here as a 50-some-year-old fan of the franchise? Let me know. Do you agree with me? Let me know. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear about it. And until next time, live long and prosper, and Godspeed. Some of the jokes just don't feel natural, don't feel realistic, don't feel like they exist. A real person wouldn't do that thing in real life